Welcome, everyone. My name is Andrea Callis, and I'm very happy to be the current president of the Association of Moving Image Archivists. And for the, 2 or 3 of you who don't know anything about us, we're a professional organization dedicated to preserving and caring and making sure moving images get out into the universe and understanding them better. The Digital Asset Symposium is just one of the events we have every year. We also have our annual conference, which this year is in New Orleans in November. And we also have something called REEL, R-E-E-L, Real Thing, which is dedicated to technology having to do with film restoration specifically, and new technology is also a really fantastic event. But Digital Asset Symposium is one of our newer events, really, within the organization. It's been going on for about 3 or 4 years, and it really is a chance to have a true discussion about digital assets, digital asset management, metadata, all the things associated with it. So I'm really thrilled that AMIA is part of this. AMIA in addition to this, our annual conference, we have ongoing activities, and we're really focused on sharing archival information as broadly and widely as possible. We do something, for example, called the Community Archive Workshop, which has gone from anywhere from Pittsburgh to the Philippines out into the communities and helping people learn about how to archive materials. We also have, an enormous growing group of people who are really setting some true sort of open source standards when it comes to moving image archiving. So that's another really exciting force within our organization that we try to share as much as possible. And AMIA also likes to really shine a light when we can on work that's not necessarily coming directly from our community, but is incredibly important to it and to not only to our organization, but generally as well. And so today, we're really honored that we're going to be giving an award to Dr. James Hendler for his work on the semantic web. And we're thrilled to make that part of this day. As I mentioned before, there are just a few thank yous I need to go through. First of all, thank you so much to Rajendra Roy and the team at MoMA for the use of this fantastic space. This is the 3rd time we've partnered with MoMA, and they couldn't be kinder and more helpful. Katie Traynor and Carson Parrish, thank you, and a huge thank you to Hunter in the booth, and all the other people that are helping us with us today to put this together. Of course, couldn't do it without our sponsors. I'm just going to list them: Iron Mountain, Levels Beyond, Quantum, Allied Vaughan, Squarebox, Empress Media Asset Management, Chesapeake Systems, Crawford Media, NBC Universal Post, and Bonded Services. That's a fantastic list of people that are really dedicated to supporting AMIA and this organization, and I really thank you. Now, today, last year, a couple of things. We had a DAS here in New York, and something really kind of amazing happened, I thought. In that day, I felt like we sort of reached another level of talking about digital asset management. It's a sort of maturity where we weren't having to actually explain what it was anymore. We had moved on to this next generation where we were really digging into these things. And it happened in the room that day. And 2 really important things told me that. One was we couldn't get anybody out of the theater. Even though we were told to vacate immediately, nobody wanted to leave. They wanted to keep talking to each other. So to that end, we have included a reception today. And so it's not just a place to go party, it's a place to continue the conversation. And it's in an incredibly cool venue at the Viacom building in something called, am I saying it right, Johanna? The White Box, is that right? It is just a really fun, great feeling of innovation just to be in that room. And so I'm just encouraging you, I know it's raining, I know you have lots of things to do, to take the time to walk to that venue and join us for the reception, because it's definitely part of this whole experience. The other thing that happened last year was there was this guy named Nick Gold. And he just, happened to come along and sort of made the whole day happen with his probing questions and his way of really getting discussion going. So after it was over, I said, congratulations, you're curating next year's desk. And thankfully he agreed, and the result of that is today. So I want to introduce Nick Gold to introduce the day. Thanks very much.
Be warned, she wasn't lying. It literally happened within moments of the last talk where she's like, you're doing this next year. But please do ask questions. My name is Nick Gold, and I thought I would just take a couple minutes this morning maybe to expand on what Andrea was implying. I'm very passionate about this space, this world that we are in, and what we're charged and tasked with daily as information workers working with rich media content. I'll make this quick, but I'll start that frame of reference by giving you a glimpse of me as a very, very geeky 14-year-old 25 years ago. Two interesting things happened in my life at roughly the same time, this being back in about 94, 93, and they were the following. I started to use an interesting little piece of technology called a modem, modulator-demodulator. You may be familiar with this technology. There's probably a few in this room right now. Simultaneous with actually discovering this budding pre-web internet, I also began reading a genre of, yes, again, geeky here, science fiction that's referred to as cyberpunk. So if you don't know what cyberpunk sci-fi is, it is a gritty, hard-boiled, very near-future take on science fiction, the world of, say, 25 years in the future. What would be happening then? What were the logical consequences of what was starting to take form? And both being on Archie and Gopher and some of these early services, these early information services on the web, and then reading about a world of the not-so-distant future in which this thing called cyberspace had permeated itself into every aspect of our society, I actually had this very profound set of feelings that emerged in me that I was going to be living, literally, as are all of us today, in probably one of the most interesting points of human history that we could ever imagine. And I've taken that, that viewpoint of where we're at, technologically as a civilization, really with me since discovering both the technology and the creative thinking around it 25 years ago. So, some of the tropes of cyberpunk, I'm sure these will come as very unfamiliar ideas. Again, I mentioned this idea of cyberspace just having crept into every aspect of our lives in any way imaginable. A world in which the government had essentially fallen apart and become at best a caricaturized version of itself, but maybe a little bit more like a reality television show. Again, certainly nothing familiar here. This is the world of militarized aerial assassin drones. Again, crazy thoughts from 25 years ago. And also a very central theme, in tandem with this thing, cyberspace, taking over our lives, we would be increasingly influenced by ever more persnickety algorithms that we would be interfacing with, these AIs or machine intelligence systems that are very powerful, very profound. Cyberspace is sort of their territory. We're just occupying it a little bit. And, we've gotten to see exactly where the last 25 years have taken us. And this notion that algorithms have this increasing role in human affairs, again, very unfamiliar to us, right? It's not like we date people or marry them or reproduce with them based on algorithmic encouragement at this point. It's not like, we've all forgotten how to use maps and we just trust that the AI gods on the internet will get us from point A to B and that they will be intelligently routing us around traffic accidents and things like that. Again, the algorithms and how they impact our lives today, I think, is something that none of us really do take for granted at all at this point. We've seen how algorithmic things that can be influenced by the activities of people can potentially shape elections. I don't know how many of you might have seen this, but a couple of days ago, Facebook copped to the following. They acknowledged that a team, a small team, they said, had been working with young adults not only to gauge their sentiment and attitude and happiness levels based on the content that they're putting into their Facebook feed and on their page, but then using that as a set of feedbacks into the Facebook algorithm in order to then affect the attitude and happiness level of those users. So again, we now even have these, corporate-controlled algorithms influencing our very shape of the world around us and our attitudes about it, and our attitudes even about ourselves. So, for 13 years, I've been directly in this space. I have the blessing of working with a systems integrator, and what that means is, a lot of people, they get to experience a few things in their career, a few good environments, and bring those together. In the 13 years I've been with Chesapeake, I've been in hundreds of environments. And, the diversity of the folks that I've had the opportunity of working with has given me, again, a very interesting perspective coupled with this weight of, this sense of, the time we are in. I've worked with government agencies and nonprofit groups. I have worked with folks on the political spectrum from all swaths. Mom and pop video production and editorial teams, and literally some of the largest media corporations on the planet. And having experienced such a swath of these slices of our culture, it's really stimulated in me, especially since last year, and especially since DAS last year, a lot of passion about, again, what it is we do and what it's leading up to. I have gotten to see all of these slices of our culture that we are both creating, curating, maintaining, preserving, granting access to. And having a broad vision of so many of these environments is given me, first of all, a great appreciation for the space that we're in, but also, again, a broader view. The view I have come to take is that the work we do individually for the organizations we serve is obviously critical in so many ways. And we have folks today who are digitizing Canadian Indigenous culture, major corporate entities that again are generating media, music, television, such a broad swath of the space that we all occupy. And again, it's given me a sense that in totality, this work is adding up to us recording a notion of ourselves at a very critical juncture in our world where it's become increasingly difficult to even predict the future. There isn't a whole lot of cyberpunk science fiction being written now because it's 25 years later and we live in it. And I think it is, again, increasingly critical that we obviously take charge of those assets and that those slices of culture that we are handling individually, but also step back once in a while and appreciate a very unique role that we occupy, not only within our industry and within media users, but for culture at large. The video is really the language of the 21st century as far as I'm concerned. Represents a good swath of internet traffic, and again, it is our recorded notions of ourselves. And I really do think that in such unpredictable times, whether it's politics or technology or the climate, this is a particularly important moment in our world history, frankly, to capture and to preserve and to pass on to future generations, the future folk, who I think are going to be, frankly, very fascinated by what the heck we were up to right now at a very critical juncture. So, I ask people to, again, relate to the work you have, take advantage of the community, despite the fact that we represent so many different faces of media preservation, and network and enjoy that company. But also don't forget, we are, for lack of a better way of looking at it, the scribes of ancient Egypt. It's just that we live in a much more fascinating time than they did. And I really do think that for future generations, this stuff will be critical. And the more of a broad swath of this world that we can capture and preserve, whether it's for the future folk or the future algorithms, we will be serving those folks well. And the work we do, again, serves our immediate purposes, but is also something that will outlast us all. And I think people will be appreciative of the work we've done.